We had the closed network test for Elden Ring over the past weekend, which introduced us to 5 of the starting classes for Elden Ring. In this video, I'm going to break down all 5 of these, their strengths, their weaknesses, their starting equipment, and some general tips on playing them. So let's go! Hey! This video is sponsored by my live streams here on YouTube. I stream every Wednesday, Australian night times, and at some random other times, so be sure to come by and check those out. Now let's get into the video. Firstly, I believe there will be more classes in the full release, and I'll have an updated video on all of the classes when we do eventually get that. We will start off with the Warrior. The main stat for the Warrior is Dexterity, which starts at 15. You also have a high Endurance, which is your Stamina with 13, and a decent Health at 12 for your Vigor. The starting equipment for the Warrior is 2 Scimitars, and they also have the Storm Blade skill on the Scimitars as well. You will also have a shield available in your offhand if you do want to run 1 Scimitar with the shield. The strength for the Warrior is the quick, fast attacks that you do get with these scimitars. You can dual wield these and swing at both scimitars at once. You can just swing the right one. You can play around with these a lot, and you've got the shield in your other hand. So you've got a flexibility for different kinds of melee combat. But the weakness here really is that for the most part, you're probably just going to be dual wielding the scimitars. So you're going to have to roll rather than block. So you don't really have the ability to parry or even use the new guard counter ability that you can use unless you do choose to switch to the shield, but for the most part, you're probably going to be dual wielding these 2 scimitars. This is a dexterity based class, so you should also be picking up a bow just as an alternative to give you some ranged combat, because you don't have any magic here or any faith incantations. It's just a melee focused dexterity variant with decent enough starting armor that will put you in the medium class so you can do a bit of rolling. So picking up a bow will give you a bit more range. This class also will do well with stealth because you can move around pretty quickly, and then you can avoid some of those big fights with a lot of enemies if you can clear off some in the distance first. The next class is the Enchanted Knight, and the Enchanted Knight's main stat is Intelligence, which starts at 16, which is for all of your spell casting. You also have 15 Strength and 13 Mind. Mind will be used for your FP, which is your focus power or your mana pool, pretty much. The starting equipment for the Enchanted Knight is the Spear. You also get a staff and a really decent shield, probably the best shield in the Elden Ring closed network test, because it has 100 physical reduction, so it blocks all of the incoming physical damage. You don't actually take any health damage. You also get the spells, the Glitstone Pebble, which is a ranged spell, and the Carrion Piercer, which is a melee focused spell where you kind of thrust forward with this like magic spear thingy. The strength overall for the Enchanted Knight, well, really there's a lot of strengths, but the main strength is the ranged sorcery. It's the only sorcery or spell focused starting class. You also get this really good shield that will block a lot of incoming damage, and a spear, which is a decent starting like melee weapon, but you could easily just buy a sword if you wanted to go that route. The really benefit here for the Enchanted Knight is it's highly flexible. You do have a really good strength starting out, so if you want to be more melee focused with that good shield, run a sword and board kind of traditional combat, you can. You also start out with 2 spells that are really good, 1 ranged and 1 melee, so if you want to choose to stay more ranged, you can, or you can get up close with the Piercer. The main weakness for this class is that you have a low health and stamina. This can be compensated by leveling up and choosing to level up these, but they start out pretty low just to compensate for how valuable the overall starting kit is for the Enchanted Knight. This is probably one of the best starting classes, at least of the 5 that we do know about, because of how flexible it is with these spells and the strength as well. And even if you are going to go like a melee strength build, you can change the Ash of War on your weapon to make it scale with intelligence by adding a magic effect to it, so you can even scale into that intelligence with your melee focused weapons as well. The Prophet is the next class, and this is a faith based class with 16 faith starting out, 16 mind for your focus, and 12 strength. The starting equipment is the club and shield, which both for the most part probably aren't going to be used that much, but you do also get the really powerful Beast Claw attack, which is an AoE cone in front of you. You can also use this from horseback as well. This is the main strength for this class, is this Beast Claw effect. It's the only way you can get it in the closed network test that I found, and it's a incantation, which is this game's version of miracles, that will throw out these claws directly in front of you, and it will hit that AoE cone and kill most weaker enemies and deal a lot of damage to ones that it doesn't kill. This class I wouldn't recommend to new players because you have a low HP pool, you also have a low stamina, you have very weak starting armor, which is just like a light robe with this weird headpiece thing. This class is really highly faith focused and incantation focused. So that's really what you're going to be doing for the most part, is casting incantations. In the full game, it will be interesting to see how valuable this class is, what kind of variations to the incantations there actually are, and how in depth this goes. You can heal through incantations and other effects, but you really are solely focused on using Beast Claw and incantations with the Prophet. Your club and shield are pretty weak because of your low strength. You have even lower HP and even lower stamina, so you probably don't want to be focusing too much of fighting around melee range. Really, you want to be avoiding a lot of the damage that's coming towards you. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this class to new players. It's almost redundant in a way when you think about the champion, which is what we'll talk about next. And the champion's main stat is again faith. You start out with 15 faith rather than 16. You have 14 strength and 13 vigor. So the difference here is that you have less focus but more strength. And you start out with a battle axe and a round shield, which is better than the club and the shield. You get better armor than the Prophet as well. You also get a unique incantation being Dragonfire compared to the Prophet, which gets Beast Claw. Beast Claw has a quicker wind up attack time. Dragonfire is a bit longer, but Dragonfire is a larger AoE cone that you can do. This class is like a faith version of the Enchanted Knight, really, and its strength really is that you have the flexibility to use these incantations as well as deal some melee damage if you do want to. Another interesting note is that its finger seal, which is what you use to cast incantations, is actually scaling with faith better than the version that the Prophet gets, which is a different kind of seal. So it's a weird difference with these two classes. I feel like that should be the other way around, considering the Prophet is highly focused on faith and this class has that extra bit of flexibility. The weakness to the champion is the low mind that you start out with, which is your focus points, so your mana basically. You can increase this by leveling up, it's not a huge deal, but really this class has the flexibility to play around with the incantations. You could pick up the heal incantation and some of the other incantations, but you also have the ability to run around in melee range with the battle axe and the round shield and deal enough damage in there if you do choose to. You can also cast the Dragonfire from your mount as well. The final class that we have to talk about today is the Bloody Wolf, and the main stat for the Bloody Wolf is strength at 16, vigor at 14, and you also have endurance and dexterity at 12. The starting equipment for the Bloody Wolf is the Bastard Sword, which is going to be your primary attacking weapon. This comes with the Thunderbolt skill on it as well. You have a decent shield which has parry, so you can parry a lot of those attacks. You can also do the guard counter effects as well. The strength to the Bloody Knight is the heavyish armor that you start out with. It's probably one of the better starting armors in the closed network test. You have a really decent shield to start out with. You have a high amount of health, a high amount of strength. As a side note, in Elden Ring, when you increase your strength, it actually also increases your equipment load, which means that the heavier the armor, etc., that you're wearing, you will still be able to stay within that medium equipment load, so you can still roll and not do the fat roll while wearing this heavy armor, because now every time you increase your strength, you get extra equipment load. So as you keep leveling up, you can put on heavier armor and avoid that fat rolling and still keep the mobility that you get. You're still really highly tanky because of the higher health, as well as doing a decent amount of damage with your strength-based weapons. The weakness to this class is that there is no magic and no faith. You have none abilities. In order to do that, you could eventually, level up those and pick up a staff or whatever, but for the starting out, you don't have any of that ability. It also means that your mounted combat can be challenging because you don't have any ranged options here either. You could pick up a bow just like the warrior. However, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because you don't have a super high dex, but you could pick it up if you really wanted to. This is kind of like your prototypical knight class with heavy armor and a really decent melee weapon that you can really use if you're looking for something that's kind of similar to what you might expect from a Dark Souls style game, or just a traditional class that you would pick up. I really think, in my own opinion, that the Enchanted Knight is the best starting class out of the ones that we know currently because of the flexibility with the spells, as well as having a high strength and being able to mitigate its weaknesses of health and stamina very easily just by either avoiding the damage entirely or actually increasing your health and stamina when you do put those points into leveling up. You have a lot of flexibility there, and I played most of my playthrough with the Bloody Wolf and I did really enjoy it, but I think overall the Enchanted Knight is probably my favorite option to choose out of all of these classes. Check out my impressions of the closed network test video, which goes through your questions that you asked me, as well as my own thoughts on the Elden Ring closed network test. I played around 12 hours of the game during the closed network test. Be sure to follow me on social media. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.